There's one agency that if you cancel the contract, they'll literally delete your website. If you're still in fulfillment and you wake up, the first thing in the morning is you start thinking about how we're going to get results for this client, you're already in the wrong position. Every time you start a new campaign, if you're kind of this generalist agency, it's literally like starting over. You probably should have less than 5% churn. If you're higher than that, you're getting into dangerous territory because
What's the most common reason a good operator with real SEO skills can't get past a certain revenue ceiling?
They need to stop doing SEO. Google's blue links.
Yeah.
I don't think humans are going to be seeing that anymore. There's a lot of opportunity to cut headcount. When you know how to use agents and you know how to use AI, we've already seen massive profit gains in our businesses because we've replaced a lot of humans. And I would get results in like the first month and it'd be like big results. And then they'd be like, okay, cool, Nathan. Yeah, I think we can handle it from here. Yeah, we need to get them results fast, but also we have to retain them too. It's never wise to go against the market. I think you need to go with the market. And if you keep hearing it over and over, you need to be selling that, right?
Hello, welcome back to Odys Podcast. My name is Aneta Samkov, and today my guest is Nathan Gotch, who is founder of Rankability. Welcome, Nathan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to talk to you about agencies and their survival the next couple years. You work with so many agencies and have watched them succeed or fail. Can you tell us what's the pattern?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of and it's not even related to SEO, to be honest. There's a lot of things that I think decrease your odds of success as an agency, and this is only me from speaking from experience because I've made these mistakes. One of them, I would say, actually begins when you begin your agency, which is actually picking the right niche. And a lot of agencies, it's a tough situation when you start an agency or you start to do client work because you want to take whatever you can get, right? So when you don't have any cash flow, you're like, okay, I'll work with an e-commerce site, I'll work with a local plumber, anyone that wants to pay me, I will do it, right? And so that's how I started. I would just take on everything. And what happened was when I got around, it was around like $30,000 to $40,000 a month. That's when I started to feel like, okay, something is broken in this process because it was so hard. And because like basically I'd wake up and I'd be like, okay, I got to work on an e-commerce SEO campaign. And then I got to switch over to a local campaign. And then I got to switch. And so that switching cost was pretty significant because the campaigns are very different.
Okay.
And so the first part is like on the fulfillment side, if you don't niche down, it actually makes operations a lot more challenging. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, if you do have a niche, it becomes a lot more streamlined because if you just work with HVAC, you know all of the opportunities, you know that basically the keywords are going to be basically the same across the board, just maybe different locations. And just the general operations is like so much easier. It's not like having to reset every time you start a new campaign. And another thing is too, even on the learning side of this, like if I work with a company that sells shoelaces, I have to go and learn about that industry. Now, AI's made this a lot faster, right? But prior to AI, you'd have to do all that research yourself and try to figure out, how does this industry even work? I don't know anything about shoelaces, right? So you have to figure all that out. And then, so every time you start a new campaign, if you're kind of this generalist agency, it's literally like starting over, even if you have an SEO system in place. So that's the first part is like on the delivery and fulfillment side. That's why niching down is so important. But the other side of it too is actually even marketing and sales. Because when you pick a niche, you can actually market to them a lot easier, right? If I say, here's why your HVAC company is losing leads or not driving conversions or has no traffic, it really speaks to them a lot more compared to like, hey, your SEO is bad, right? Because that's just really general and it doesn't really call out the ICP or the ideal client profile. So having like a specific target to go after just like makes marketing a lot easier in my opinion. And it's like across the board. Like if you're doing paid, if you can call out that ICP, it's a lot better. If you're doing SEO, your whole agency site can be about solving SEO for HVAC companies. So that helps the algorithm also in that way. And we were talking earlier before we started recording about YouTube. A lot of people try to go on YouTube and they try to be generalists kind of early, right? So they're like, oh, I'm gonna start an SEO YouTube channel, even though their target market's like, I don't know, moving companies or something. It's a big mistake because what you're gonna do is you're gonna compete against all the generalist channels, which is really, really hard. You can beat a huge channel by getting really narrow. Because like, for example, if you're competing against someone who has, I don't know, 100,000 subscribers or more, they can't really go that narrow, because if they go that narrow, their views get crashed really badly. So bigger channels have to stay broader. But a small channel, you have the advantage where you can really get super specific. And YouTube, not to get off on YouTube, but YouTube is really good at serving up relevant videos based on your interest because of the interest graph. So if you're an HVAC company owner, and you've been trying to figure out how to get more traffic to your business or trying to get more leads, YouTube is going to know that pattern and is likely going to serve up those SEO videos. Say, hey, you should try doing SEO. That's kind of the idea.
Okay.
And so that's why staying really niche is important. And then on the sales side, it's also really easy because your proposals are basically going to be the same almost every single time. You know the problems that they deal with. You know how to sell that market. You become better at selling that market over time, the more reps you put in. I'm a big fan of niching down in case
you understand
Yeah.
your client much better and their perspective, and vice versa for the client. It's also much more relevant.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, that's the first one. There's others, but that's a big
Yeah,
one.
we will probably touch on all of them because now we're in a moment that is very confusing. A lot of changes happening with AI overviews, zero-click searches, declining CTRs. How specifically is this disturbing the traditional agency model?
I think some people are overthinking a lot of this. I think because I've talked to a lot of agency owners and I've seen different ways of people trying to package AI search with SEO, and so I've seen some people selling it as its own individual product.
Yes,
and
there's a big debate.
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of opposed to that idea. I actually think it should be sold as one unit. And the main reason is because a lot of what you do to influence AI platforms is heavily SEO. So to me, it seems, I don't know, for lack of a better word, almost dishonest to a certain extent to sell that package when you know that it's like 80-90% SEO. So I think kind of like the way we've been kind of repositioning it is instead of it being like, hey, we're just going to sell you SEO, it's more like, hey, we're going to sell you search everywhere optimization. And then within that bucket, you have traditional search, right? And then you have, so we've actually, this is something kind of relatively new. We're not just focused on Google. It's still like 90% Google, because Google is obviously the biggest traditional search engine. But we've actually started to layer in Brave and DuckDuckGo and Bing as well.
Okay.
Because a couple kind of, might seem odd initially, but the reason is because Brave in particular, Claude, when it does retrieval, goes to Brave. And so that's its preferred search engine. When it doesn't know the answer to a question, it goes to do web search, it uses Brave instead of Google. Which is kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
So, and then there's also evidence that ChatGPT uses Google and Bing. So, what you're really thinking about these days, at least in my opinion, is to try to be everywhere in the traditional SERPs, in the traditional search results, because that greatly influences the AI platforms. So, so that's a big one. Is like traditional search is the first layer. I would call that like the base layer of the campaign. And then on top of that, you have the AI platforms. And so those should be prioritized kind of based on how much market reach they have, how much market domination they have. So as of right now, ChatGPT has, after the last data I saw, it was about 50% of the market. So for like pure AI chat platforms, they have about 50% of the market. So obviously ChatGPT should be a focus.
Yes.
And then after that, you basically want to put all of Google's AI products into one bucket. So that's going to be Google AI Overviews, Google AI Mode, and Google Gemini. All three of those, although they still use like the same underlying technology, you see different results. So we track this a lot, and like when you run a keyword through like our tracker, for example, you'll see some competitors popping up in AI Overviews, but invisible in AI Mode, or popping up in AI Mode, invisible in Gemini. And that's with Google's own product. It's still, there's still that much kind of like, differences there. And so we're tracking basically ChatGPT, Google AI products. And after that, Claude is growing very fast, obviously.
Yes.
I would put Claude probably third. And then after that, it's all kind of just putting the other ones into one bucket. So it's going to be like Perplexity, Grok, Microsoft Copilot, probably missing one as well. But that's the general idea, is like really thinking about, for the client, measuring the total search performance. Instead of just saying like, here are your individual keyword rankings, right, in traditional search. You should still do that, but you really want to be measuring like total search performance. And so some people refer to this as share of voice, which is a kind of a very old metric that's been around the advertising space for a really long time. We use in our software called Search Performance Index, so SPI score. And that's basically a measurement of like total search performance.
Do you think part of that pivoting to AI search or offering as a separate service stems from the expectations of the clients themselves? Because there is such a hype about AI that maybe clients themselves expect that it is a separate service.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a funny thing because I talk to a lot of agency owners, and a lot of them have been, for a lack of a better word, resistant to offering AI services. And the main reason is because like, well, I don't feel confident to deliver results for it, which is a good thing to say, right?
Yeah.
You should feel confident that you can actually deliver. But the thing is, clients, you don't want to go against the tide. And when you get on discovery calls and you hear over and over the client saying, what are we doing on ChatGPT? Are we visible on ChatGPT? I heard about this Perplexity thing. Is our brand on Perplexity? Like when you start hearing those questions over and over and over and you still continue to resist it, you're just going against the market.
Yes.
And so you have to go with the market, and I'm a big fan of that. Like if the market wants ChatGPT, I'll give you ChatGPT, even though I know on the fulfillment side that it's really just SEO. Right? So that's like, I think it's never wise to go against the market. I think you need to go with the market. And if you keep hearing it over and over, you need to be selling that, right? And, I think sometimes you have to be brave enough to sell it and then figure it out sometimes too, right? And that's kind of a scary thing to do. But like when I started, I wasn't totally confident I could deliver SEO, right? Like I was kind of confident when I started. I was like, I think I can do this. And then, but when someone pays you and it's their business, they're relying on you to deliver results. Like you start figuring things out really fast. And so I think not having the fear that like, oh, I can't offer this because I don't know every single intricate detail of how this works.
Nobody knows.
I mean, everyone's still trying to figure out. It's a very new market.
And very fluid also.
It is. But there are some established things that are starting to be very clear as to what actually influences these AI platforms. Actually, in my opinion, there's actually somewhat of a blueprint now at this point. Similar to how there was with SEO, kind of a similar blueprint. I'm starting to feel a lot more confident in what actually works. And so, but like I said, if you do SEO well, you should be selling however you want to package it. That's up to, how agencies want to do it. But we like to package it kind of in one unit. So that's just easier to sell. Like, hey, you're going to your brand's going to be visible on all search surfaces. So that's kind of the idea. Yeah.
So talking more about clients, what does a client who stays for like 3 years or more look like for agencies? What are they buying? What results are they expecting?
Well, expectations, I think they change over time. Like at the beginning, it's easy to deliver big, huge gains in campaigns, right? So like you start with a brand new campaign, they have very poor SEO performance. It's easy to get huge lifts, sometimes triple-digit growth in traffic, leads, whatever it might be. But over time, those lifts get harder, right? And so like when you're 3 years in, getting quarter-over-quarter growth of 10% is a win, right? So those gains get a lot smaller, and the only guarantee of any client engagement is that it will end. Eventually end, right? Either they're going to sell their business or they're going to get the false impression that they don't need it anymore. That happens a lot. Like you wouldn't believe how many times I've driven results and it was the right intent. Like, okay, I want to get the client results really, really fast, right? And so I used to do that. I'd be like, I'm going to get them results so fast. And I would get them results in like the first month, and it'd be like big results. And then they'd be like, okay, cool, Nathan. I think we can handle it from here, right? And so I started to learn. I'm like, oh, okay, so I got you results fast, and that wasn't good either. So it's kind of this weird, you kind of balancing like, okay, we need to get them results fast, but also we got to we have to retain them too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we're trying to run a business as well. So one way that you can do this is if you've done a really good job in SEO, you can sell back-end services that have more retention. SEO is kind of a weird one because the retention side of it can be tough because once you get the results, they technically can continue to get the benefits of that even if they stop working with you. It might be temporary. It might be like they'll be fine for a year, but over time they will start to fall without consistent work. But like at least for a year, they don't need you,
Exactly.
right? If you've done a good job. So it's kind of those weird ones, and it's not the same with like paid search, right? You can't just like turn off paid search. If you turn it off, your leads are just evaporate.
You're done.
Right? So that's why I try to get a lot of agencies to think more about like, yes, you can be that SEO specialist or expert on the front end, but on the back end, think about what are the other services you can sell that you can add more value to the business, to the point where they're like, okay, these guys do so much that like it would be hard to let them go. The switching costs would be too much that you can increase retention. Like there's some agencies that do this, I don't want to say in a nastier way, but there's some bigger agencies where they will literally try to get as many hooks into that client as possible to the point where it's like basically impossible to cancel.
Okay.
There's, I won't name the agency, but there's one agency that if you cancel the contract, they'll literally delete your website.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's in their terms. Like they will literally say like,
Seriously?
we own your website. So if you cancel,
People sign
they'll
it.
pull the plug. Yeah, I'm serious.
Wow, I
Yeah.
can't believe anybody signed that.
Well, and this agency does $100 million a year.
That's crazy.
So yeah, so I'm not saying to follow what they do, but the general idea of like trying to give as much value to the business, I think that's the best way to retain. So if you just offer SEO, you're playing a dangerous game, in my opinion. Yeah.
And from your work with so many agencies, have you maybe identified any particular niches that are more high stakes, more rewarding?
Yeah, there's definitely some that are more higher value for sure. Anything in the legal space is top of the list. So personal injury is probably very top of the list.
Very competitive as well.
Very competitive, but I try to get agency owners not to be too afraid of agencies that are competing in a particular vertical, because they're basically telling you that that's a good one to go into.
Okay.
Right? So when you see a lot of agencies like really fighting for clients in the industry, that's actually a really good thing. If you go to a niche and there's like no agencies around, I'd be scared.
Yes, that's true.
That could mean that someone has already tried and it hasn't worked very well and they abandoned that industry. It could also mean it's just wide open, certainly. But yeah, personal injury is really, really competitive. Like I just saw recently a keyword when I was doing some analysis. It was like truck accident lawyer in some city, and the cost per click was $800. So for one click for Google Ads is $800.
That's crazy.
So it's really easy to sell SEO to personal injury. Like, listen, do you want to pay this much per click, or do you want to do organic, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty easy pitch to them. And also their customer value is really high. So if they get just one client, it could be $1 million case, sometimes $10 million case.
Of course,
So for them to make a $5,000 to $10,000 investment in SEO is nothing. Right. So you really like when you're trying to identify the niches, that's the biggest thing is like identifying the ROI. So there's like a specific ratio you can use, which is at a bare minimum, you want like a 3-to-1 ratio. So basically for every dollar that they put in SEO, they get $3 back. But ideally it should be much higher than that, because the lower that margin is, the less room for error there is.
Yes.
And so that's why like you want to try to find industries where like that margin is so high and the gap is so wide that you have enough freedom to drive the results. And they don't need as much volume to get the same outcome. So so obviously personal injury, other subsets of legal, family law, criminal law, but then even venturing into home services. So like HVAC is a really good one, because installing one furnace could be $10,000 to $15,000.
Yes.
So they're big, high ticket stuff. Another one that I don't know if this is where you guys live, but in the U.S., there's some areas that have a lot of issues with water coming up from the ground, so groundwater. And so people that do flooding or water protection in houses, it is insanely lucrative. So they put in like these water systems in the basement, and basically it pushes all the water out of, like, make sure it doesn't come into the basement, called sump pumps. Yeah. And so they build these systems, and I'm speaking from, I had to pay for one of these systems, so I know how expensive they are. Those are the types of industries you want to be looking into. The opposite side of the spectrum, you don't want to focus on industries that have low ticket type of customers. So like, hot dog stands are probably not your best, target to go after, because you think about like a single hot dog stand would need to sell an ungodly amount of hot dogs to make it worth it. So you can actually, based on the ROI ratio, you can actually determine what the appropriate pricing is too for the particular industry. So you can literally look at that ratio and say, okay, I want to charge $5,000 a month. Is it possible for them to get that 3-to-1 ratio at $5,000 a month? And if the answer is like, oof, I don't know. If it's a little tight, then that's probably not a good industry. So, but I'm not saying you should start at 5K, but like, you can determine pricing in that manner. So, yeah.
How about like beauty and like aesthetic medicine?
Yeah, more e-commerce style.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like if they're selling products in that sector, e-com is a lot more volume based.
Okay.
So, but yeah, if you're talking more like local, like people that do
like plastic surgery.
Yeah, plastic surgery. Yeah, plastic surgery is a big one too. I'd say like the 3 industries that you want to try to at least venture into or at least investigate would be like legal, health, medical, and then home services. So those are like the 3 core. Anything outside of that, yeah, it can be done, but it gets, like there's someone here today at this conference who they specialize in moving companies, and they're doing really, really well.
Oh wow!
So there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Yeah, you don't hear that that
No.
often. Yeah.
No.
So actually, with agencies that are experiencing churn and shrinking margins, to what extent do you think this is a market problem or maybe a founder problem?
Oh, I think it could be both. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a weird situation right now with agencies because a lot of business owners and a lot of founders have developed a false sense of confidence with AI, and they think that they can not need agencies anymore, and they think that, oh, we can do this all in-house now because I have ChatGPT or I have Claude or whatever it is. But as someone who uses agents every single day and uses AI every single day to code, to write, to design everything, I can tell you they're extremely intelligent and super, super smart and can streamline a lot of your work, but you still need to know what you're doing. And if you don't have like the foundation of any like skill set, the AI is not going to help you, right? So, so like for example, when it comes to SEO, like I can use AI really, really well because I have an SEO system I've been working on for 15 years, right? But a business owner has never done SEO in their life.
Exactly.
They're not going to. They could have as much AI power as they want. They're never going to be able to get the same SEO results. Just like how I can never build a home. Right? I can't, AI's not going to help me build a house. Right? I can't do that. That's not my skill set.
Instruct.
Right. It will tell me how to do it, but I certainly will not build a stable foundation. So, so I think that's right now it's a really weird situation where business owners, especially, I wouldn't say like local business owners as much, but more of like companies that have in-house teams have become very confident, maybe a little too confident in what AI can do for them. Because at the end of the day, AI is, it's, you mentioned supplement. I feel like that's what AI is. It's a supplement to an existing system that you have to have. If you don't have that underlying system, nothing's going to work for you. Like I to this day, no one has outranked me with just ChatGPT, right? Like they can ask ChatGPT everything they want. They still they couldn't be an experienced SEO, right? Because that's not how you win. So I think that's the first part. It's a little weird of a situation. I think these things swing back and forth. We've already seen business owners who have fired their agencies and come back. Right? Because they're like, oh, I think we can handle this now. So they start getting into the AI world and they're like, this is harder than I thought. So let's go back to the agency and start doing it that way. Because it's like, why are you messing around with SEO? Like you need to be closing deals, not dorking about SEO. Like leave it to us for that. So so I think that's right now it's kind of a weird situation. Another thing is too though, I think agencies really need to be thinking about, and I hate to say this, but there's a lot of opportunity to cut headcount. And when you know how to use agents and you know how to use AI, we've already seen massive, massive profit gains in our businesses because we've replaced a lot of humans. And I think that's probably what's going to be happening going forward. I think agency is unique in that way because you still need to have an account manager. So you need to have someone that still communicates with the client. Clients do not want to talk to a robot. They don't want to talk to AI. They want to get on the phone and like know what's going on.
Yes.
And in fact, that's actually something a lot of agencies that I work with, when I audit kind of what they're working on, or like they have, let's say, client retention issues. The first thing I look at is like, okay, well, what's your communication with the client? And they're like, I send a report every month, via email. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, let's start with maybe talking to them. Let's start with actually like getting on the phone with them, maybe once a month and seeing how things are going. And I only learned this because this is like early when I was doing agency. This is a good problem to have, but I had a lot of leads coming in. And so I started getting really lazy about the leads because like when you have a lot of leads coming in, you're kind of like, you can be like that. So I had this lead come in, it was a lawyer. And I was just so overbooked with work. I was just like, I can't even think about closing another deal right now. So I was like, okay, he sent me an email, like, okay, I'll just send you a proposal. I just sent like a PDF proposal attached to an email, like no communication. He was like, and then he responded back and he's like, okay, thanks, but I'm not gonna go with you because I actually need to talk to you on the phone. Like he said something like that, and I was like, he's right. Like that was really rude, and that was not a good sales process. And so I like learned from that, and so every time I've added a lot of like human to human connection in the process. It makes all the difference in the world. I used to be like, I wouldn't want to talk to the clients at all. Because I thought in my mind, I was like, well, if I get you results, why do I need to talk to you?
Yeah.
Right? And like that is not the way agency works at all. Getting results is critical, but there's also another side of it where like actual like relationships. And if there's a quote, make a friend, make a sale.
Yes.
Right. And so that's kind of the same idea there. And like if you don't have that connection with your client, dangerous game. So just like small little details like that, increasing the level of communication, going from like sending one report once a month to sending an update every week. That's a small shift that I made, where we send basically a little quick update every week. Hey, we just acquired this link. Hey, this keyword just went up. Or hey, we're dealing with this issue. We just wanted you to know we're working on it. Like that communication helps a lot. And even if the client doesn't respond, at least they see you're on it. That's a big one. And at the end of the month, having one, kind of call just to kind of recap the month, talk about what the strategy is going to be the next month. And, clients, they don't even care really about the strategy. They just want to, they're like, okay, cool. They actually like on it. They just want to know. They want to have that confidence.
That you're doing something.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Because it's like a lot of these SEO companies, kind of like a black box, right?
Yes.
They're like, I literally talk to business owners all the time. Like, I have no idea what my SEO company is doing.
Yes.
They say that all the time.
Yes.
I don't have no clue what they're doing. Yes. I'm like, that is not good.
Yes, I'm paying and I don't know what they're doing. They're not communicating, right?
Yeah, and then there's one other third piece of this, which I created once I kind of tried to fix my retention issue, is a SEO action dashboard. So basically it's gotten more advanced over the years, but it used to be just a Google sheet. And basically every single action that we take, we put it into a row, right? And it would show for that month, here's so I get really granular, like fixed a broken link, put an alt tag, like every single little, and that there's a reason for that, because length implies strength. And so when you show every single little detail, the client looks at it and says, okay, well, they must be doing a lot. So it gives you a little bit of pressure relief from the client, because even if the results are going to take longer, as long as they see that you're actively working on it, you will get a much bigger buffer to drive results. But if they don't know what you're doing, they're going to be all over you.
Okay. Yes. So, yes. They're not going to trust you.
Yeah.
So you've trained so many agency owners. What's the most common reason a good operator with real SEO skills can't get past a certain revenue ceiling?
Yeah, they need to stop doing SEO. That's usually the thing that holds them back the most. One of the most dangerous things I see is like when you're really good at something, it's really hard to give it up, right? So like when you have to give up, like for me to give up SEO is really hard. Right, to have someone else do SEO like takes a lot of like trust, but it's critical in an agency. Like you have to be willing to give it up, and even if that person is a 7 out of 10 compared to you, you still have to do it because it's so critical. And the only way to grow an agency is you have to get out of fulfillment. That's the only way. If you're still in fulfillment and you wake up, the first thing in the morning is you you start thinking about how we're going to get results for this client, you're already in the wrong position. The very first move that an agency that's going to be growing should do in the morning is, how am I going to get more clients in the pipeline? How am I going to get more leads in the pipeline? How am I going to grow the agency? That's like the only thing that you want to be focusing on, like first thing, if you're doing things the right way. But usually when I talk to agency owners, literally the first question I'll ask them when they're like stuck, like, what is your day like? And they'll be like, well, I usually wake up and I think about the client campaigns and I plan our next, and I'm like, okay, well, there we go. So, it's not, you've got everything kind of backwards. So even if like, this doesn't happen overnight, obviously, you have to work on this and build it, but even if you can just dedicate an hour a day at the beginning of the day, like, okay, this is me time. This is the business time. I know the clients are there. I know we got to work on them. I know that's important. They're our livelihood, but I got to put ourselves first, right? Because unfortunately, like, the businesses are always going to put themselves first. They don't care about the agency at all, right? If push comes to shove and the economy gets real nasty, who's the first person that's going to get fired? It's going to be the SEO company.
Yes.
They're going to look at those line items. Okay, $5,000 a month. Okay, cross them out, right? It's very easy for a business owner to do that. So they're always going to put themselves first. The agency should always put themselves first too. And so that's why I just kind of like try to reverse the schedule a little bit. So it's like, in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's like one of my favorite books. There's a little quadrant, which I think he took from, it's called the Eisenhower Matrix, but he basically took like similar concept. And there's quadrant 2, which is important but not urgent tasks. And so those are things that like actually grow the business. So like, for example, publishing a YouTube or creating a YouTube video. If I don't publish a YouTube video today, nothing's really going to happen, right?
Yes.
But if I don't publish a video for a year, that's probably not going to be good, right?
Yes.
So, but those are like those important but not urgent. Those are almost always the activities that are actually going to grow the business. And it's always the stuff that you're like, I could do that tomorrow. So client work's the opposite. Client work is like, it feels like I have to do this because if I don't, we're going to get canceled. But that's actually the trap. So you have to kind of rework your mindset there. And that helped me a lot too, is like and obviously bringing people on to do the work is a big one. Because if you don't have the freedom to have that hour, 2 hours, ideally, honestly, I'm pretty extreme, but like usually 4-hour blocks in the morning. I'll try to block out a whole 4 hours of like work just for building the business. But if you don't have that luxury, even 30 minutes is a good start, right?
Yeah.
Just 30 minutes, an hour. And it's sometimes like, if you're like, there's no way I could do that, it's actually the exact reason why you need to. So, because it shows that your business does not have the foundation at all, right? If you go on vacation, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
It's kind of like exercising. You can push it off the next day, but if you push it for a month or a year, you're not going to see the results.
That's a great example.
So you've seen so many agencies fail up close. What does this actually look like? What are the first signs that something is going wrong?
Well, there's a lot of signs, but I would say if clients are churning at a high rate, is generally a bad thing. Churn is obviously like the biggest problem in basically every business, because if you can't keep your customers or keep your clients, like that's the number one thing you have to solve, because it's way more expensive to acquire a new client than it is to keep an existing one. This has been statistically proven so many times. I think Harvard says it's like 7 times more expensive to acquire a new client than it is to keep an existing one. And plus, your existing clients are actually the easiest to sell more stuff to on top of it. So it's way easier to sell an existing customer than it is a new one. So that's why, like, we have to use so many tactics to actually acquire a customer, like, lead magnets and tripwires and all these different things to try to get them in the door, because it's so hard to actually close, to give someone to give you your credit card. So yeah, I would say starting with like retention, and if retention isn't right, that's the first place to begin. I would say for an agency, like, you probably should have less than 5% churn. If you're higher than that, you're getting into dangerous territory, because you're gonna have to acquire so many new clients, and like that's the hardest part of the whole operation. So it's much easier to look at things like, okay, is retention good? If that's good, okay, now let's move on to the next thing. The next thing would be getting out of what I call like the death trap or like valley of death for an agency, which is like anywhere between $10,000 a month and $30,000 a month. You would not believe how many agencies don't get past that. They get stuck right in that range because it's a weird one. Because when you get to $30,000 a month, at least for me, I didn't have any money growing up. So like when I got to 30,000, I thought I was like rich.
That's a lot.
I was like, this is like I am good. I don't need to do anything. But then I realized I'm like, well, wait a second. Maybe I'm just saying that because I don't know how to get out of this. And so I started to think about it like, well, maybe I'm just saying maybe I'm saying I'm okay because I don't have the skills to get out of this range. And the reason why that range is so dangerous is because, like I said, it's very secure. Right, it feels good. You're like, I can live on this. This is good, which is really dangerous mentality. And usually the only reason why most businesses or entrepreneurs say that is because they don't know how to fix it. Right? It's not because they actually feel that way. They have that little desire to be bigger and want to go further, but it's more like, you know what? I'm just gonna. This is fine, right? They'll say that because I said it, right? I felt that way. So that, but also in that range. In most cases, you're going to have a pretty nice size of clients and you're going to be working really hard. And the problem is at that point, if you have about 20, 30 clients, give or take, at that point, it's really hard to sit back and be like, you know what, I need to focus on growing the business. Because your mind is so focused on, like, oh no, I just need to focus on like retaining these clients. I need to focus so hard on just this bucket of clients that I have. And that's actually not what you need to do at that point. What you need to do at that point is you need to build systems, bring people in, and get yourself out of fulfillment. And it's hard because you don't have the time at that point to do any of that. To think about sitting down for a day and just building some boring system all day, that's not something a lot of people want to do, right? Because the comfort zone is in doing the SEO work. It's not very fun building systems. As someone who's built many, I can tell you it is not fun work to sit there and try to think through every single little detail of a process. It's gotten a lot easier with AI, obviously, because you can, like I use Whisper Flow, which is a voice recognition, transcription type of thing. And I'll just speak through a process and then I'll have the AI like clean it up. Which is a lot faster now instead of me having to I would have to type it out before. So things have gotten a lot easier in that regard. But yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing is like once you get in that range, know you're in that range, and there's things that you have to do to get out of there, and it's not more fulfillment. So yeah.
So what would you advise to founders who are struggling right now? What are like the 3 things they can immediately implement over the next 6 months that could help them out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm making the assumption that like this would be a founder that's maybe stuck at a revenue range. I would say like first thing, as I mentioned before, is like confirm that retention is good. So once that's good, that means you're actually delivering results. So that's good. The next thing I would be thinking about is like, okay, if we're delivering results for SEO specifically, the next obvious move is to start to chip away at systems. And so even just small systems, like the smallest of system that you could build would be like, here's how you go and make a copy of the Google folder that we use for the campaign, right? Like start with the most basic system that you can. And it's funny, when you start building systems, you realize how hard it is to actually explain something. Like just building that, I always use this example because showing someone how to create a Google folder for a campaign, like there's a lot of steps to doing that, right? So like you can break these systems down into each granular step. And so you need to start doing that. That's the first thing is like slowly start chipping away and thinking through like one of the best exercises you can do for building systems is like spend the whole week just documenting everything you do in the whole week. Like just write it down. Don't try to build systems. Just like literally document every single thing. Okay, I did this, I did that. And then by the end of the week, you look at like, oh my gosh, I'm doing so many things that I should not be doing. And the way you determine what you should or should not be doing should be based on your target hourly rate for the agency. So the way you want to think about is like if you want to have a 7-figure per year agency, you would figure out what is the hourly rate that I need to have as CEO of this agency. So you can work backwards and say like, okay, I can only do tasks that are $1,000 an hour or $2,000 an hour, whatever it may be. And if there's anything you see on that list that's less than that, you need to figure out how to offload it. So that's like one thing that helped kind of shift my mind was like, okay, I can look at this and be okay, it doesn't make sense for me to go and fix a broken link. Probably not. I think most people can handle this. So that's like the first part is like, what is that ideal hourly rate based on your revenue goal?
Okay.
And so it's an hourly rate that's in the future, obviously, but it kind of helps your mind think about things a little bit clearer. So that would be the next part. So yeah, systems, figuring out your ideal hourly rate as the founder or CEO of the agency. And then third would be bringing people on to help you. Now, this one's weird these days because I would argue that there's only a few roles in agency that have to be humans. And one of them, I don't see this changing anytime soon, is an account manager. So the person that actually speaks to the client, you want that person to have good soft skills. So it's like, I always like to use this example. So like when you, in the US, when you go to an auto shop, okay, and you want to like get your oil changed in your car, okay, you go in and you talk to the manager, right? And the manager is who sets up the appointment and gets you all good to go. You don't talk to the technician.
No.
Or you don't talk to the guy changing the oil. Because the guy changing the oil does not have soft skills. He is not going to deal with your nonsense, right? And so, but you see this all the time with agencies. Agencies will have the SEO technician who's like really technically gifted, but they lack the soft skills. They don't know how to speak to clients. They don't know how to handle when a client is irate about something. They just can't handle that. And so and this is funny, I never published this study because I thought it'd be too controversial, but I looked at all the top agencies in the US and I looked at all their account managers. I wanted to see what was the type of person that was an account manager. At some of the biggest agencies with 90% female.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that's interesting. Because I just men, testosterone clashing. I feel like there's like an issue there sometimes with account managers. So like, when a man gets negative feedback from a client, they might feel the need to want to kind of like fight back to a certain extent. But I found with like, for some, like my wife, for example, can handle things a lot better than I can, right? She's like, she can take it and be like, okay, like, I don't know. So maybe it's a female thing. I'm not trying to like, but I'm just saying like there's literal evidence that account managers in the US are females, like overwhelming evidence. And so, I think maybe there's something to be said there on that front, but it's more like maybe some females have better soft skills than males. That's all I'm saying.
Very interesting fact.
Yeah. So, but that's a key part is like, can that account manager take really tough feedback and still be like, okay, yes, we'll take care of that.
They won't take it personally.
Exactly. They don't take it personally, and then they bring that feedback back to the technician. And the technician gets feedback that's a lot more soft from the account manager instead of getting the feedback that's like real nasty from the client. So it adds that layer that then makes everyone's life easier. So, it's harder for the account manager because they got to take it on, right? But if they're good at what they do, they can take it on. They'll take obviously the feedback and then they'll feed that back into the team and be like, okay, this is what the client said. This is what we need to work on. That makes things a lot more nice. So
you need that buffer.
You do. And so like going back to like the absolute roles that I don't think are going to go, that's one where like I don't think it's going anywhere. It's so critical for agencies. And that's one thing I try to recommend to a lot of people that are trying to grow is like, don't have your technician talking to your clients. And actually I learned this the hard way. Let's say I had a technician talking to the clients one time and it did not go well.
Oh, wow.
And they couldn't take the feedback. And they responded back to the client in a real nasty way.
Oh, no.
And I was like, well, that's my fault. I shouldn't have had the guy changing the oil talking to the client. So, so I learned that lesson the hard way. But it's very important. Now, on the technician side, though, that's where you can start to think about using agents in a lot of ways. Agents can solve a lot of the real high-tech issues, especially on the coding side or technical side, loading speed, anything related like that. I mean, we use agents to do all of that now. So so I would think like one thing to be thinking about right now, which is unique to any other time, is like, do I need a human for this, or is it possible that I could use Claude or Codex or Replit to handle some of this load on the fulfillment side? So
And you're building Rankability now in public,
Yeah.
documenting whole process pretty much from zero.
Yeah.
Whereas most people share when they already get results, right? What made you decide to do it that way?
I mean, I think it's just more my style. Yeah, I mean, I've always really done this with my businesses. I just am totally an open book about it. And I think there's just so much nonsense online. Like, like you said, you only see the success stories all the time. You see the end outcome of all of that. And it gives people a false sense that business is easy. And it's not, right?
Yeah.
And like any new business model that you go into is going to be difficult in its own unique way. So like when I did agency, I had different problems doing that. Then when I started doing training, that was a whole different set of problems. Now I'm doing software, that's a totally new set of problems. I would say out of all the business models I've been a part of, software might be the hardest.
Wow.
For like some of, it's hard in different ways. Like it's hard because you're constantly having to fix bugs and fix problems, and you have hundreds of people using your product at the same time with unique situations, unique edge cases. So you have to try to prepare for all of that. It's impossible. You just can't. So you can do the best that you can to build the foundation, but basically what we do is we just let the clients tell us what needs to be fixed.
Okay.
So they're like, hey, this is broken, or hey, this is, and I'm like, okay, cool. So they can go in, because like I can't possibly account for every edge case.
Yes.
It's very different. And so like in agency, it's a lot easier because you don't really have to build a product. Like you offer a service, you get results, and like that is the product. But yeah, like I said, the grass is not greener on any of these models. Like whatever model you pick is going to have its own unique set of challenges. Even when I was doing training, with training, there's a plateau that you hit. Like most training programs never get beyond 7 figures a year. It's just so hard unless you want to bring on coaches and build all the infrastructure like that. But if you don't want to do that, like you're going to be capped.
Yeah.
So like I said, every business is different.
So how operational are you day to day?
In Rankability specifically?
Yes.
I'm very in the weeds with Rankability right now. Yeah. I tried for 2 years to not be in the weeds. Like I tried to build it like, okay, we're going to have a development team, like build it all. And like, we're going to let them, I'm going to trust them. But it wasn't going the way that I liked.
Oh, wow.
So they weren't doing things as fast as I wanted. They weren't doing things the way that I felt they needed to be done. So I felt the need to step in and start doing some stuff. And so, yeah, we made some big decisions at the end of the year where we decided to fire our development company and take it all in-house. There's a reason for that. You want to have everything controlled in-house because you can move a lot faster. You can do things in the way that, you can pivot when you need to.
Yes.
I'll give you a small example. Like when this is probably last June, I had the idea, and this is pretty early with AI search tracking, I had the idea, I'm like, we need to build an AI search tracking tool on Rankability. So I built a prototype on myself, and it probably was production level. Like we could have pushed it to the market. But then, we had a discussion, we're like, okay, let's have the development company build it. So it's stable, it's good. And so a year later, they finally put out their first version of the tool. Oh. And of course, I'm like, okay, a year is like 2 decades in AI.
Yes,
Like a year is the longest amount of time. And at that point, I was like, you know what? This is not going to work. Like we were already ahead of the market with this, but we got behind because we had to wait for the development team to actually build it out.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't do this. Like we're too slow. We can't be slow in this market. We have to be way faster. So we brought it all in-house, and now in the last 5 months, we've developed more features than we did in 2.5 years.
Wow.
And we have been shipping like madmen. So yeah, so like right now I'm definitely in the weeds, but that's because I needed to step in. So yeah, and that will change. Like I'm already building infrastructure. My partner's starting to take over a lot of the development stuff, and he's handling a lot of the real difficult problems. And I'm moving back into marketing again.
What is your boldest prediction for SEO and search marketing for 2027, if we can get a little bit ahead? And how should ambitious agency owners position themselves to succeed in that climate?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 things that definitely pop out. I don't know if it'll be next year, but like definitely in the near future here.
Okay.
The first one is at like the traditional search index, so like Google's blue links, Bing's blue links. Like just what we know is like search, right?
Yeah.
There's those traditional stuff that's been around forever. I don't think humans are going to be seeing that anymore.
Wow.
I think that it will continue to exist, but only for the AI to use. I think, and then on top of that, I think that most searches will be agents. I don't think that humans will be searching as much anymore and going directly to search engines. I think what's going to happen is most people are going to be using Google AI mode, Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever your preferred version of an AI platform is. And then when the AI doesn't know the answer, it's going to go to those traditional search engines. They're still going to exist for that purpose, but it's really just so the agent can go and find the information and come back and give a more accurate answer, quote unquote accurate. So I think that's the biggest change is like most searches are probably going to be agentic. And so making sure that you have built the proper foundation so agents can easily understand your website. And that's going to be a big one is like agentic optimization, which is really just basically the same stuff we did for search optimization. So, but I think that's a big one. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank
Nathan,
you so much.
for sharing
Yeah.
so much of your experience. This must be so valuable for all the agency owners.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And if you enjoyed this episode, follow Nathan on LinkedIn, on his YouTube channel, and subscribe and like our channel as well, and comment on this video. Thank you.
Thank you.